Welcome to Healing Your Families. This month, our theme is going to be communication. And I'm starting out with a guest who has a rather interesting aspect of communication. Have you ever had that experience when you were trying to communicate with your medical professional and it didn't go how you expected, or you felt like communication didn't take place? Well, Alma Lake, my guest, has experienced this and did more than just have the frustration. She is the editor of the magazine Lost and Forgotten, and she learned more about it. So, and came up with some solutions. So I would like to welcome my guest, Alma Lake. Alma, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here and hope that the information and the discussion we have today will help those who have been faced with this issue, or just to have knowledge that in the future, when something like these different experiences happen with medical gaslighting, that they know that there are things that they can actually do and feel more empowered. And also that people won't feel that so alone and isolated when they've experienced this. Medical gaslighting, a lot of people haven't heard it, but it's been around for a long time. It's when a doctor or medical provider just minimalizes the issues that you bring to them. They may be, you may be in a lot of pain, and you go to them, they're like, your pain can't be that bad. This is normal. Everyone has this kind of pain, and they just discount it. Or it can be assuming a diagnosis or situation on your race, your sex, your gender, your age. Well, everyone that's that age, that old, feels this. Or if you just lost some weight, you wouldn't be feeling sick like that. You would feel better. And so that's another way that it often happens. A lot of times, especially for women, women will say, I've got this fatigue, I've got these pains, and they will say it's in your head, it's anxiety, it's depression, you're under too much stress, you're doing too much. And they just discount women presenting those issues that they're having and feeling. Also refusing to order tests. So you might go in and you might be, I have my heart, I feel like there's some pressure there, and they're like, it's just stress. We're not going to order tests. You don't have any of the the factors that weigh into having heart disease. You're going to be fine. And they don't refuse to order tests. Just even refusing to discuss your health issues with you. You're fine. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing else to discuss here. Another thing is, you'll come in, we all do this, we look up online how we're feeling, right? And you'll go in and say, I have these symptoms, these are some of the things that I'm thinking it might be, is there some testing we can do? And they're like, oh, I'm the doctor here, stop with the Googling, who's the doctor? And that's another way of medical gaslighting, right? And so for me, I had experienced some of these issues throughout my life with different things, but where it really came into play was with my son. In 2020, October 2020, he actually caught COVID, and our whole family did. I had one daughter asymptomatic, a husband who was very sick. He actually was very mildly sick, recovered within 48 hours, but about 2 weeks later, after he was sick, 2 to 3 weeks after he was sick, he went back to school, and he collapsed at school. He couldn't walk. He had migraines. He was in a lot of pain. So of course we took him to the doctors, and they're like, well, we don't know what's going on. And they sent us up to primaries. We saw ENT. And there, when we were up at primaries, because it took a couple days, because remember, this is lockdown, COVID. So we got him to primaries, and the ENT's like, okay, he's got this rash, he can't walk, he's got headaches, he's got all these issues. And he said, there's a new syndrome going around after COVID that people are presenting with. and this is what I think is going on, and he needs to get us into a neurologist. And he actually got us into a neurologist pretty quickly. And as we realized, things just kept progressing and progressing. He got sicker and sicker over months. And still here 2 years later, he still has issues that he's dealing with long COVID. They now have a formal name for it, PASD. It's SARS-CoV COVID-2 syndrome. But they don't know how to treat it, and they do realize that children do have it. But throughout that process, we experienced a lot of medical gaslighting. One of his first physicians, I'd call him up, I say, this is going on. And he said, he told me one day, he said, we'll take him to the ER if you think he might be dying. And I was like, wait, what does that look like? And he's like, I don't know what it looks like, but obviously, there's nothing I can help you with. I don't know. And then I had other doctors who would say, oh, it's got to be anxiety. It's got to be in his head. But he couldn't walk. He had to do physical therapy. He was in physical and occupational therapy for a year. And I even still had doctors while he's doing physical therapy say, he can't walk because he has anxiety. And of course, once people started saying that, I was like, wait a second. We took him to a therapist. The therapist says, he doesn't have anxiety. He is sick and he's stressed because he can't walk. And so that really gave us a lot of ammunition when we went to other doctors, when they would say, well, it's anxiety, it's stress. And I was able to say, my therapist says it's not anxiety, it's not stress. But so one of the early things with the medical gaslighting, I remember his neurologist wouldn't call us back. And he started off with hand tremors, arm tremors, leg tremors, and progressed into full body tremors. And neurologists are notorious for being difficult to get into. And he wouldn't call us back. We left repeated messages with his nurse, his doctor. And finally, someone had mentioned to me, if you call his office manager or the people who are over him, because he works at a medical facility, that they will make sure he calls me back. And so that's what I had to do. I had to call at primaries, it was a patient advocate, and they were able to send a message to their his manager, and I got a phone call back immediately. And then we were able to discuss these new symptoms that were happening. And he was here again, anxiety. And I'm like, wait a second. And I had a decision to make in that conversation. Do I try to find a new doctor, or do I try to increase the education and the communication between me and the doctor? And so what I did was I explained to him what anxiety does and doesn't look like, what my son was and was not experiencing. And I said to him, I gave him the ability to not have the answer. I said, you do not need to have an answer for me today. I don't expect an answer, but I do expect you to help me find out what's going on with him. And I think that's a key when speaking to doctors, because a lot of doctors feel that they need to have all the answers for you right away. And there's a lot of pressure on medical providers to have that. By just acknowledging that this is something new and different and that he didn't have to have an answer, let him reevaluate and figure out other people that he might be able to see and other ways that we could proceed with care. And that I wanted him to be part of the team and part of the solution, that it wasn't me attacking him, but wanting him to open this conversation up so we could get my son well and the care he needed. And so that's kind of where this whole project of the Lost and Forgotten started, is because of our experience with this. I'm in school as a student, and one of our projects was to see where we had been spending our time for the past 2 weeks. And mine was at medical doctors almost every day. And he wanted us to take something that in the community was going on that we could try to help improve. And to me, it was these conversations that I were having with doctor after doctor that were getting stalled because of maybe the way they were trained, their perceptions of what this disease was, the lack of knowledge that they didn't have. And so there's a lot of things that play into why doctors might make these jumps in communication. And kind of understanding that helps you to bridge those gaps and helps you to have a better conversation with your doctor. And so go ahead.
As you spoke, as you were describing this process, that's what came to my mind, that these doctors, rather than simply admit, I don't know, were grasping at straws, trying to come up with something and an explanation that was not in their area, like anxiety. Oh, it's anxiety. You've got to talk to somebody else. And I loved when you said you gave that doctor a way out. And you said, you don't have to give me an answer. So rather than making an answer up, and I loved how you said you wanted him to be part of the team. So you initiated more effective communication.
Definitely. And it's hard to do when you're in the middle of an illness and a disease. And that's why they often recommend you bring someone with you to the doctors. Not that you're not capable of taking care of yourself and interacting, but having that other person there who can remind you of what was said, what wasn't said, and that you can then go back with better questions next time, or follow up with an email that say, I didn't understand this. Can you provide me more information or give me some clarity on what you really want me to do? And I think that's one of the suggestions they say when you go to doctor's appointment, especially for yourself. Now, I'm the one for my son, so I take on that role. But when you're going in for your own treatments and care, it's good to have someone there who can help be that in between and help you to, especially if you're dealing with serious illness, to help you just take notes and keep track of what's going on in appointments.
And making sure the doctor understands. Well, and I don't know, that it's such a huge part of our culture, that profession. How could you change that?
I think it has to start with us wanting our doctors to have the ability to have better bedside manners and better communication skills. And I think a lot of it is it's very competitive in medical skill, right? It's a lot of type A personalities. They have to know all the answers. There's no way any one medical professional can know all the answers. And I think we have to realize that. I think we have kind of put it on them as this in our society that doctors, if the doctor says it, he knows it, that's it, right? The doctor knows it all. And there's no way with all the illnesses that we have out there and that they can have all those. And that's why we have so many specialties today. And even specialists, they sometimes are so narrow that, the neurologist, there's so many different types of neurologists. And that we often think, okay, there's one neurologist and he knows it all. He doesn't. He might not know anything about epilepsy. He might know nothing about concussions. And so, but most people don't have that understanding and knowledge of the medical system because we're only there when we're ill, right? We don't usually go in when we're healthy. And so we're usually in the middle of some kind of crisis and not feeling well when we're dealing with the medical system.
In other countries and other cultures, they're more open to a broader range of medical support. They would have naturopaths and chiropractors and herbologists and people they would combine Eastern and Western medicine. And I think there are some remedies that can't be answered within our doctors are trained in prescription medication. So they can find, and quite often I know when I've been at the doctors, some of them have even said, okay, I just got this sample of this new drug. Why don't you try this? And I'm thinking if we could encourage a climate where we're looking at more options. You know, there are some natural remedies.
There are, and I think the change is happening, but it is slow. You know, there's this saying where uh jumps in science and advancements take a generation, because the old people who were there have to die off before the younger ones have that knowledge and can share it. And I think that's kind of just because the way the system has been set up. And I think if we can advocate with our doctors, and I know there are doctors trying to make that change, but in the education system to say there has to be um an opening. And it's happened. We actually at Primary Children's, they've started offering you can get acupuncture
Mhm.
and cupping and massage as alternative treatments that are now actually covered by your insurance through Primary Children's. And that has just been a more recent change. But I think more of the more patients demand it, the more likely those changes will come. And I think when talking to your provider, if there are these things that you're interested in, talking about it with them. And a lot of providers now are more open to these other solutions and ways for healing. But most doctors aren't trained in them. Most
Yeah.
doctors don't have the knowledge in them. A lot of them only get a semester or a course or two on nutrition. So they send you to a nutritionist, right? And so they don't have that knowledge because there's so much that they need to learn that it's more focused. But I think if we start to ask for it and ask for it with our insurance providers, that hopefully with time we'll get more.
I love that. Now, talk about your magazine, The Lost and Forgotten. You know, first of all, that title is captivating. And I've seen your website. You look like you have some really interesting stories there.
Yeah. I know so many people who've experienced different forms of medical gaslighting. And, some of the things that people may not realize is there's a lot of negative effects when you have like a misdiagnosis. It can take 2.5 to 14 times longer to get a correct diagnosis, right? And you can have a delay in care, you get more ill. And I think it's just people feel hopeless, right? When they feel like their doctors can't help them. And so when I started to talk to people more and more about this issue, I realized how many people were experiencing it or had experienced it, and how the emotional hurt and some people even trauma, depending on what they went through from having that kind of experience. And so I really wanted to be able to share some of their stories. My son, there's a lot of other children like my son. The percentage is small. In the UK, they say about 14% of kids are like him who have COVID. So it's not, the majority of children, but it's very isolating. And to have so many people experiencing that, I wanted a place where people can know that they weren't the only ones. And so I did my gallery of the lost. And so I asked people to give me a picture and tell me a little bit about their experience with medical gaslighting or experience that they had. And I had a lot of people share that they didn't necessarily want up. And some of them were very sad and tragic and very heart-pulling, but I think them just sharing it helped with the healing and helping them to realize that it really isn't their fault. When that happens, it's a breakdown in communication and in a relationship, but truly you're not at fault for it. I mean, you may have not realized that there's things you could do, but you can't just take it all on yourself. But it happens for a lot of things. 50% of women get misdiagnosed when they're having a heart attack. 33% of women who have stroke get misdiagnosed. That's a lot of women if you think about it, because heart disease is a huge killer for women, right? They have 33% of women have longer wait time in an ER and get less pain relief. 40% of Black patients get less pain meds for acute pain. And so it's it's a lot of people, and a lot of issues. And so, but I think a lot of people feel helpless and don't know what they can do.
Well, I loved what you said about sharing the story. When they share their story, it helps other people. I mean, just finding out that you're not alone is huge. But I hadn't thought before that it would help them. They're kind of getting that hurt out.
Mhm. Well, it
And
takes the shame away, right? Because you're
yes,
embarrassed. You're like,
yeah,
doctor thinks I'm just crazy and I just have anxiety. And maybe we do have anxiety because of what's going on, right? And anxiety is not a bad issue, but you might be in a lot of pain and fatigue. And, you know, like I've had vision problems and balance issues and all kinds of things. And have someone say you just have anxiety when there's a legitimate cause is very debilitating.
yes.
And it
It would
makes you
make,
feel like you're just losing it instead of actually you have a physical condition.
yeah, you'd make you feel you're less than, you're just, yeah, yeah, that is devastating. So I love the idea of the communication. You know, I'm a retired school teacher and I taught special ed, and we would have education advocates who would go into the IEP meetings with the parents if the parents felt like the school district isn't listening to me.
Mhm.
Are you aware of any medical advocates that can go with
Yes,
patients?
yes. Every hospital has some type of patient advocate, and they are your ally. If you're getting stuck with a doctor, you're getting stuck with not getting treatment and care, reach out to your hospital's patient advocate. They have a lot of, the hospitals here local have multiple people in those positions at each of the hospitals, and they can help you schedule appointments. They can help you find specialists. They can help you get tests ordered. They can help you with doctors who aren't responding to you in the way that they need to. So every hospital here, especially in the state of Utah, but I'm sure at least in the United States, has patient advocates. And they may not all call them patient advocates, but if you usually call the hospital, their number, you can say, I'm having an issue. Who at your hospital can help me solve this? And a lot of the hospitals are kind of cross training people. I've noticed we've had to call for a lot of different things lately. And they're like, well, I can also help you with this. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, that's cool. And so I think just speaking and talking and asking is a huge part of it. And sometimes it's hard because what we're experiencing might be slightly embarrassing to us, right? We're thinking a lot of times when we have health issues, we feel like it's our fault that we have a health issue. And our bodies are fragile. They sometimes don't work, and we could do everything right and still have problems. And so we shouldn't take that and add an additional burden because our bodies aren't working how they should be.
Now, I remember when my mother was hospitalized, there was a social worker who just went above and beyond helping her and making sure there was a smooth transition when she left the hospital to the care center she went to. And I never thought that that might have been her role. So are they hired by the hospital
Mhm.
or are they from another agency?
The hospital hires them. They always are looking. If you look at ads, they're looking for people for those positions, um, because they know that it's a complicated system, and they know that things aren't always going to go the way that they need to. You also, with your insurance company, have your member advocates or your member number, and you can reach out to them. If you have a doctor and they didn't treat what you needed to, you can reach out to them and say, I need a doctor that does this. Another thing that you can do, which I had to do for my son, he was first diagnosed with MISC. It's a multi-inflammatory syndrome for children. And I was trying to find a specialist. And so I took all the doctors in the state of Utah that I can find. And I went through and I read their biographies. to see who had actually done treatment of children with MISC. And I found one in Ogden and made an appointment, got him in and took him there. But you can do that. You can find, if there's something going on and you know that there's a particular interest, illness, whether it's chronic fatigue, whether it's endometriosis, you can look and see, oh, is there a gynecologist who specializes in treatment of endometriosis? And 9 times out of 10, there's some doctor who's done some in their residency or in research that has that specialty, and they can then help you get the help you need.
You remind me of that quote that a concerned mother does more research than the FBI.
That's probably true.
Definitely, definitely. So how do people contact you? They can go, you said it's lostandforgotten.org.
It's lostandforgotten.info.
Okay.
Yeah, www.lostandforgotten.info is my website. And then also they can reach me at my email, which is Alma, ALMALLAKE @gmail.com. And definitely, if they want to just get some ideas, if they're having an issue, I would love to, give them some ideas of things that they can do. On my website, I have information on how to get a second diagnosis, or things that they can do with a doctor to help if they find themselves in that situation.
I love it. Well, Alma, I'm excited for the people who've joined us. They'll have a chance to ask you questions and continue the discussion. Thank you so much for coming. And to my viewers, come back next week at the same time. We'll continue the theme on communication, how important that is in families in various settings. So, and if you find yourself struggling with your emotions, feeling like your emotions are running your life, I invite you to go to feelingtriggered.com. I have an ebook I wrote on how you can change your response. So join me again next week at the same time. Until then, love yourself and love your family. Let's make the world a better place by strengthening families. I'm Emma Lou Penrod at healingyourfamilies.com.